Hello. In today's lecture, I'll discuss about the Laplace equation, Poisson equation, and Laplace equation, and then I shall discuss about the uniqueness theorem. Now, in electrostatics, our task is to find the electric field for a given charge distribution, and for any given charge distribution, using the Coulomb's law. Suppose we have a given charge distribution, and the charge density, the coordinate at a particular point, the charge density is rho and its coordinate is suppose r prime, and for this given charge distribution we have to determine the electric field at any other point whose coordinate is r, and the relative coordinate, the coordinate of the field point with respect to the source point, is r minus r prime, which is taken as curl dr. So the Coulomb's law gives the electric field for this type of charge distribution, volumetric charge distribution. We can determine using this law. Using this expression, we can determine the electric field. But this type of expression, that using this Coulomb's law to determine the electric field, can be done for the case of simplest charge distribution, but for any complicated charge distribution it is not easy to determine the electric field using this expression. And in that case, we try to use the Coulomb's Poisson equation. We recast the problem in Poisson equation. So first we shall determine the Poisson equation. We have earlier determined that the electric field can be derived as the negative gradient of the scalar potential, and the differential form of the Gauss law is rho over epsilon naught. And using this electric field, this value of the electric field, we get divergence of minus grad phi, this is as rho by epsilon naught, or we get del square phi as minus rho by epsilon naught, and this is Poisson's equation. And the charge, and if we consider the point where the charge, there is no charge, the charge may be elsewhere, then this equation reduces to another equation which is known as Laplace equation. So if rho is 0, where there is no charge in the region, the equation reduces to this one, and this is known as Laplace equation. Laplace equation, and this equation is useful for the boundary value problem where charge is not, there is no charge, charge may be elsewhere, and field is produced due to the external charge. Now, one interesting thing we can say that from this Laplace equation, that a charged body cannot exist in stable equilibrium in charge free space under the influence of electrostatic field alone. Suppose we consider electric field, the uniform electric field, and this Laplace equation, from this Laplace equation we can say that there is no charged body in stable equilibrium in this charge free space. Suppose contradictory to this, in this point, we say that there is a charge, positive charge, at equilibrium at this point O, and if we somehow, if the charge is displaced by a small distance for using a small perturbation, then this field itself would bring it back to its initial position at the point O, and this requires the negative charge at this point. And the presence of this negative charge at this point O is contradictory, because this space is charge free space. So we can say that this stable equilibrium of this positive charge at any point in the charge free space is cannot be obtained. So this is the consequence of the Laplace equation that we can say. Now we shall discuss about the properties of the solution. Properties of the solution of Laplace's equation. First we can say that if there are different solutions of the Laplace equation, suppose phi 1, phi 2 and so on, phi n are solutions of Laplace equation. So each of these solutions, the potential, will satisfy the Laplace equation. Now we define another scalar function phi as a linear combination of this potential function. Now we check this relation, this expression del square phi. So this would be C1 phi 1, C2 phi 2 up to Cn phi n, and naturally we get C2 del square phi 2 and Cn del square phi n, and since all the solutions satisfy the Laplace equation, the total result will be 0. So this new function, defined new function, which is considered as a linear combination of all the potential functions, also satisfy the Laplace equation. So this linear combination itself is a solution of Laplace's equation. So this is the superposition of the solutions, that is the superposition principle we can say about the solution of the Laplace equation. Next property that we can say that the potential has no extrema, local extrema, that is the low local minima or maxima. The only extrema may be at the boundaries. So potential has no local minima or maxima. All the extrema, that is the minima or maxima, may occur at the boundaries. So this is the another property of the Laplace equation, and Laplace equation gives the average, is a kind of averaging instruction, and that's why it does not give a local minima or maxima in its solution. Now using the Laplace equation to determine the potential for any charge distribution for any boundary value problem, we require this suitable set of boundary conditions. And what are these suitable boundary conditions? Okay, we are going to check. If we consider the Laplace equation in one dimension, this is the Laplace equation, our Laplace equation in one dimension, Now integrating this equation, we get ddx of phi as b is a constant, integration constant, and the general solution, again integrating this equation, the general solution can be written as mx plus b. M is another constant. So to get the actual solution of the problem, one dimensional problem, we require two boundary conditions. But in 2 or 3 dimension, it is not easy to see what constitutes the acceptable boundary conditions, and this proves that the proposed boundary condition will suffice if it is presented in the form of it can be presented in the form of a uniqueness theorem. And I shall discuss here two uniqueness theorem. One uniqueness theorem is on the solution of the Laplace equation, another one is on the solution of the Poisson equation. That is the uniqueness theorem. Uniqueness on the solution of Laplace equation. And this theorem states that the solution of the Laplace equation is uniquely determined if we specify the value of the potential at its boundary. The solution, I am writing it, the solution of Laplace equation is uniquely determined. That is, there will be a unique solution, a single solution, if we specify the value of the potential. The potential is the solution of the Laplace equation. So the value of the potential at the boundary. Now we will prove it. Suppose we consider a region of volume V with a closed boundary on it, and the charge inside it is 0 because we are going to solve the Laplace equation, So the charge may be outside it elsewhere, and suppose we consider, contradictory to the theorem, this theorem, that there are two solutions. So contradictory to this theorem, we assume two solutions, phi 1 and phi 2. We assume that there exist two solutions, phi 1 and phi 2. Both these two solutions satisfy the Laplace equation. So we write del square phi 2 as 0. Now we define another function. We define phi 3 as phi 1 minus phi 2. So del square phi 3, it will be del square phi 1 minus del square phi 2, it will be 0. So this function, new function, will also satisfy the Laplace equation. And if we, as we have said, that the boundary, the potential is specified at the boundary, so the value of the potential must be unique on the boundary, and so phi 1 at boundary, this will be equal to phi 2 at the boundary. The values must be same on the boundary, and so phi 3, which is actually the difference of phi 1 and phi 2. So boundary must be 0 since these two potentials are same at the boundary. So this will be 0, and since it is 0, naturally we can say that these two potential must be same inside the region, and so the potential is uniquely determined. The potential is unique. Next we consider another uniqueness theorem, the uniqueness on the solution of Poisson equation. So this is another uniqueness theorem, uniqueness on the solution of Poisson's equation, that is the on the electric field, and this theorem states that for a region filled with a charge density, as we are considering the Poisson equation, there must be a charge density. So for a region filled with charge density and surrounded by the conducting surfaces, the electric field is uniquely determined by the total charges of the conductors. So consider a conducting surface, and inside it a charge density is there. So this is the conducting surfaces. The volume of it is V. Next we can consider, though it is not mentioned in this theorem, we can consider another additional boundaries, small conductors of different surfaces S1, S2, and the total surface of it is as S, and these boundaries may contain the charges with critical distribution, charge distribution. However, we do not consider those critical charge distribution. We consider only the total charges, Q1, Q2, and so on. These are the charges over there. So I am writing this theorem. The statement is, for a region filled with a charge density and surrounded by the conducting surfaces, the electric field is uniquely determined by the total charges, of the conductors. So similarly here also, while try to prove this theorem, in contradiction to this theorem, we consider two solutions. In contradiction to this theorem, we assume two solutions. As E1 and E2, these are the two electric fields, and they will satisfy the Poisson equation and similarly the Gauss law. So we can write divergence of E2 as rho by epsilon naught. Both these two equations satisfy the Gauss law. Next we define another vector E3 as the difference of E1 and E2. So taking the divergence of E3, this would give you divergence of E2 as 0. So it is in the region between the conductors. Since these two equations satisfy the same, on the right hand side they are same, so it will be 0 in the space in between the conductors. And now for the surfaces, individual surfaces, we can write closed surfaces SI. These are the surfaces, individual surfaces. So E1 dAI, this is the integral form of the Gauss law for individual electric field, the two solutions that we have assumed. You can write, they also satisfy Ey by epsilon naught. They both satisfy the Gauss law on the surfaces. And for this function, this vector, we can write E3 dot dAI is 0, because the right hand side both this equation same. So over each boundary we see that this integral is 0. And now we use this identity, divergence of phi 3 E3, this gives phi 3 divergence E3 plus grad phi 3 dot E3. Now this is 0 as we have obtained it earlier, this one. So remaining term gives you minus E3 dot E3. Grad phi 3 can be taken as minus E3. So this would give you minus E3 square. And integrating this term over the volume, divergence phi 3 E3 dV, and using the divergence theorem we can convert it to the surface integral, closed surface, on the integration on the closed surface. So phi 3 E3 dot dA, this equals minus E3 square dV. Now since the conductors are equipotential on the surfaces, conductors are equipotential, this phi 3 will be a constant and we can take it out of the integration. So it will be E3 dot dA, this is as minus E3 square dV. Now this integration is 0 over the surface. We have earlier obtained this relation. So we can say E3 square dV is 0. This in turn gives you that E3 must be 0. And E3 is the difference of the two electric field solutions that we have assumed. And since it is 0, so E3 E1 will be equals to E2. That is the electric field, that's the electric field is uniquely determined. So this gives the proof of the second uniqueness theorem in electrostatics. And here I conclude today's lecture. Thank you.